Hi, my friends, it's Miss Cindy. Just wanted to give a quick review for this week's lesson. Last time we have talked about the gospel, which is the good news, and we also talked about parables, which can be found in the gospel, which are stories Jesus used to teach with that have a deeper meaning that, help him illustrate what he wants us to do and how to live our prayerful life. And then we also talked about buckets and how we can fill our buckets with good deeds and prayers and just making good choices in life. Okay, so you may wonder, what does it mean to live a prayerful life, and how can I make this part of my life? Great question. And in fact, Jesus's own disciples asked the very same question. They wanted to know what they can do. What kind of prayers can they do? How do they pray? As you can see, that you can find it in the Bible. They said, "Lord, teach us to pray as John taught his disciples." And then Jesus's response was, "When you pray, say," and it's a bigger story here, so we'll go on to our next slide for that part. Did you guess that he would have been the one to teach them all the Lord's Prayer, or the Our Father, as we sometimes call it? So after his disciples asked him about praying, he then taught them the Lord's Prayer. As you can see, we can find this story in the Bible, of course, where you see it says, "Before this, no one dared to pray to God as their very own Father." And this is actually one of the most used prayers in church, before dinner, before a game. We tend to use this a lot, and I'm sure you guys have all heard this one. And this is, this Lord's Prayer is the prayer which Christ gave to our church. And we also call it the Our Father, as I mentioned earlier, because of the very first words of the actual prayer. So I would like you guys to review the Lord's Prayer. I've attached it to the next slide, as you can see, and I have a feeling that many of you already know this and have heard it in our divine liturgy. Now that you've seen what the Lord's Prayer is, you may have recognized it. You may have even said it during divine liturgy. We say this every Sunday during divine liturgy. This is a prayer that is always said before Holy Communion. Now that you know this, you can look out for it. You can also know where you are in the divine liturgy. When you hear this prayer, you know, well, you know what? Holy Communion's coming up. Yay! Another thing that goes along with leading a prayerful life is, doing your cross. And it can get confusing during liturgy. When do I do my cross? Some good tips on when you can do your cross is, one, before you venerate an icon. What does that mean to venerate an icon? Usually when we walk into church, we light our candle, and then, before COVID, of course, we would kiss an icon or say a prayer at the icon if you didn't kiss the icon. That's considered venerating, which we're asking that particular saint to, help us along with our prayers. Another time we do our cross is after we say our prayer. For example, before, when we did our, Lord's Prayer or the Our Father, when we finish that, we always do our cross. Another time you can do your cross in divine liturgy or in church, is when you hear the Holy Trinity, meaning the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Anytime you hear those three together, you could do your cross. Or if you just hear, Jesus' name or God's name, those are good times to, stop, listen, and do your cross. For your homework this week, I'd like you to practice learning the Lord's Prayer. Some of you may already know it by memory, some may not. Regardless, try learning it, try saying it. It's a great prayer that we can use throughout our life. And then, of course, please continue to fill your buckets with prayers and good deeds and good choices. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week in person. And of course, we will continue to talk about parables, praying, the gospel, and just, church in general, or whatever we feel we need to discuss to help us in life.